back live on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. You know what time it is. It's Renovation Nation time. Yeah. Another Saturday. Oh, yeah, it is what it is, people. Hope you're having a great one. I'm Chad Rowland, host of this crazy show called Renovation Nation, coming at you from Super Talk 99.7 WTN. And you do know what time it is, although I changed up the intro music a little bit. Same song, but I had to remix it. I actually, something happened to it on the computer and all this good stuff. And I'm a pretty technical guy. I can jump in there, on some Pro Tools and Studio One and stuff like that. And I was remixing it. And of course, it's like chopping down a tree. When you're trimming a tree, next thing you know, you end up with a stump. And you got to start all over. Yeah, I spent a few hours doing that, and it changed it up a little bit. I may adjust it as we go because it bothers me. That's not my normal tempo. But maybe it slows me down where I can speak more clearly and get a few things across today. But like I said, I hope everybody's having a great Saturday. Thanks for joining in. Thanks for joining in here on Super Talk 99.7. And after the show today, if you missed last week's show or last few weeks' shows, you can go to YouTube, search a standard conversation, at a standard conversation, a little symbol and stuff, and you can get straight to us. You'll see Renovation Nation /RTM Roofing. Excuse me, got to clear my throat. That you'll see up there, and I've been doing a lot of shorts. I mean, of course, we put these shows up, then I pull stuff out of these shows to sort of highlight because I babble a lot, as you can tell. But then you can go and can catch the quick version when you're in a rush and don't have time to sit here and let me just keep talking like I'm known to do. So, having said all that, there was a lot of you, or a lot of people that viewed the shorts this week, or reels, whatever you want to call them, on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube. I mean, wow, yeah, it's hope you're getting something from it. But, and that's a word I gotta stop using. Having to edit these videos, I've noticed some of my repeats, and the butt is killing me. I'm sorry about that. However, yes, that'll be my new one. I talked last week about a lot of stuff. I got into insulation because now RTM Roofing is doing home insulation. As a matter of fact, Mr. Haley out there in Lebanon, we got to see him this week. He hit us up on that and checked his roof while we were there. Roof's in good shape. Needs a little tune-up, but other than that, a little caulking, a little touch here or there, a little nail pop was starting. Minor. And we got in his attic, and yeah, sure enough, he had 4 inches of 1960-something blow-in. 4 inches. Now, I hadn't went back and researched what the codes were in the 60s, because I wasn't born yet. And they've changed since. However, I guess I'm going to use that one. I don't know. However, it's settled, and it's now at 4 inches, and standard code is R38. So that's 34 R values, or an R value of minus 34, he's been dealing with. That's huge. I think we're going to help this gentleman out, Mr. Haley, a lot on this. And he's a show listener, so what's up, Mr. Haley? Appreciate you listening. He called either last week's show or I guess some of the commercials this past week have been about insulation. We've started. We're in. We're going. And we're going to save some people a lot of money over time. Now, your roof protects everything you own over time. Yeah, that's money in a roof, and it's going to wear. Well, insulation's sort of the gift that keeps giving until it's squashed down to 4 inches. That scares me to death because I still haven't went up in the Haywood's attic and looked at my insulation at the office. I tell you, I bet I'm probably an R4 or R5 because his home was built very, very similar, or at least during the same decade. Oh, yeah. But having talked about that, I also got into standing seam. And I sort of nicknamed the show today Standing Seamless. And I don't mean the don't do standing seam. I mean, it just sort of seemed like a good name. I want to talk a little bit more about standing seam because we've gotten quite a few more calls this week from people wanting standing seam, and that's awesome. You know, we do standing seam. We do metal. Yeah, well, I know I'm always talking IKO and Dynasty shingles, and I love shingles. That's what's on my roof. But standing seam isn't bad. It's a higher price point. And so today, I was going to get into a little bit, at least in this first half of the show, of just some pros and cons of standing seam. Now, some are just average pros and average cons. Some, I'll tell you, is my personal opinion. And take that with a grain of salt. My opinion is my opinion, and you know what they're like, and everybody's got one. So, but, dadgummit. However, after talking with I'm going to call him Mr. Sam because I can't remember how to say his last name, and I don't want to butcher it, and you know how I am with names. Talked with him for an hour one day this week. I think it was Thursday, if I remember right. He called, and I was the one that happened to be answering the phones, and so we got to talking. And he started reminding me he had a 60-something square roof. I think it was 62 squares. And he's, how much is a standing seam, on 62 squares? I'm like, well, wait a minute, because roofing in general, there is an average price, but that's in general. But then we get to your home, which is like a fingerprint. Now, there's some very similar fingerprints, but then again, there's some completely different fingerprints. Well, that's everybody's home. Not everybody's home is built. It's hard to say not exactly the same, but they're not all the same blueprints. They didn't all come together in this one area just because that's the way it came together. All kinds of stuff. So they're like individuals, and, an extra large size suits may cost you a little bit more than a small suit, right? Well, same thing in roofing. It's not that the bigger the house, the more the price. That's not it. It's just they're different. I'm still questioning myself in my head if I'm saying this right, so excuse me if I'm just repeating. But at the same point in time, they are different. So when someone calls us to say, hey, how much is X? How much is a standing seam roof? I can't go, it's whatever. $1,000 of, $10 a square foot. How about that? No, it might be 30. It might be 20. And I can already tell you at $10 a square foot, I can't do it. I know that. Ours starts a little higher than that because that's the materials and labor are just about more than that. So my point being is I can't just give you a standard number. I can give you generalities. I can say, hey, it's going to cost you $40,000 for that standing seam roof, and it's going to cost you $16,500 for a shingle roof. Now, those are my opinion numbers, but they're in the ballpark. It's that kind of difference. I think I was talking with Craig earlier this week. Matter of fact, I know it was, and he had just recently estimated a standing seam and a shingle roof, and he was giving them all kinds of options they were asking for, and I think on his it was about 2.3 times more than a shingle roof. And you go, dadgum. Okay, so if I've got a $20,000 shingle roof, that's a 60-plus standing seam. I would say every bit of it. There might be somebody at 55, but you're not going to be 20. And that's because you're buying 3 roofs, in this case, 2.3 roofs in one. Because it is, okay, let me slow down. For those what is a standing seam roof? Well, number one, it's a metal steel panel roof. So it's steel, 24, 26 gauge. Most residential's 26, but you can get 24 if you want it. But it's a steel panel, and it has a burnt-in paint finish. Now, some don't, some do. I like the burnt-in. I like the better version of the paint and how it's applied to the metal for the reason of that's your main warranty. your main manufacturer warranty. It's the paint warranty. It's a steel panel. If the steel breaks, well, that's that would be probably under warranty, I would assume, if it was a manufacturer's defect in the coil of metal that it came from. But 9 out of 10 times that panel is going to be there longer than you're going to be on the planet, especially if you're my age getting it. And yeah, the paint can fade over time. Of course it will, but it's their paint warranty that what you're getting with it. Labor warranty is the same. RTM Roofing does a 5-year labor warranty. I don't need to do 10, 15, or 20 because it's not labor then. Okay, it's 0.0001% chance of labor in year 15. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's at me because I've had it doesn't matter what I've had. What I want to tell you is that standing seam metal roofing is a good roofing system if you're budgeted for it. If you've just got a lot of money and you need a write-off. I'll put it that way. I think some buddy told me one time, he says, sometimes people have more money than sense. And I'm like, well, yeah, look at Washington. And that's a prime example. But having said all that, it's a great roofing system. It wasn't for me and my roof. I didn't want it. Not because it's not a great roofing system, it's because I'm turning 54 in a couple weeks. I don't need a 40, 50-year roof. That's not me. I like shingles. I'm a shingle guy. However, if I had a little more money and a lot more sense, I probably would have put it on there. But when I come back, I'm going to give you some pros and cons of if you do or if you want to. You're listening to Renovation Nation. We'll see you in 3. Hey, this is Chad Rowland with RTM Roofing. You already know us for our roofing, our siding, our soffit, our fascia, our gutters, our chimney caps, our skylight work. Now, home insulation. It's time to get your attic inspected. Do you have enough? How long has it been there? What's inside there? Call RTM Roofing at 615-500-0751 or go to rtmroofing.com. Listen every Saturday right here to Renovation Nation. And we're back live on Super Talk 997 WTN. You know what time it is. It's Renovation Nation time. Yes, it is. Another Saturday, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. all day long, but not. But we are all day long a lot of times because you can go to YouTube and catch us. You can catch this show. It'll be available, I always say, Sunday or Monday, sometime, usually in the afternoon, one of those days. You'll find this show. You may find it earlier. Depends on, like I was saying last week, I've got to get my good side. I swear, listening, that now that I do the editing of the videos when we're doing the show here, that I hear everything I say, and I got to shake my head. It's embarrassing sometimes to me. But anyway, hope everybody's having a great Saturday. We're talking standing seamless today. That's what we're talking about. We talked a little insulation on the first segment, and jumping into here, we're going to continue on with the standing seam. And oh, by the way, if you didn't catch that first segment, again, you can go to YouTube and search A Standard Conversation. And it'll bring you up to Renovation Nation / RTM Roofing. You'll recognize you might not recognize if you've not been there, but it's a black and white logo we've got. Kim did an amazing job on that. I got to give her a shout out. She does a lot of my neat stuff. I just got to get her editing these now. Anyway, hello, babe. But anyway, so standing seam, pros and cons. Well, let's talk about some pros of standing seam. And standing seam, what is that? It's a metal roofing panel with non-exposed fasteners. We'll say it that way. Meaning the seam is where the two panels interlock. And when you lay that, after you interlock it and you lay the panel down, then you screw the panel to the deck. Then you interlock again and it covers your screws. Now, what most people think about in metal roofing is called classic rib, and it has all the screws you see from the outside, and that back out, the washers go bad. But every 10 to 15 years, you have to change out every screw, and you get 2 rounds of that. So that's, 45 years out of that roof you should get. But a lot of times, it all depends on how it was installed in the first place and all the details. That's really what it is. A metal panel is a metal panel. But what are all the details, the flashings, the eave metal, the rake metal? There's a bunch of other stuff. So let's get to the pros and cons, because I'm going to squirrel if I don't. And, well, number one is a longer lifespan in standing seam metal. Arena metals, they have a longer lifespan than shingles. Yeah, that's pretty simple. I mean, it could be 40 to 70 years. Depends on, how the paint does. Now, the panel will be fine. That's what we're talking about. It's the steel 24 or 26 gauge. Most people do 26 because 24 is going to cost you more and it's thicker. But it's steel. That's almost, that's all I'm going to say. It's a steel panel. And we extrude it on site and cut it to fit. We don't pre-order panels because your house isn't square. And if I order them all 18.5 and somehow down at the end of your run there, you're really 18.6 1/4, well, that looks a little weird. So we run each individual panel. So its concealed fastener system reduces, let me say it again. I've got this stuff written down. Concealed fastener system reduces leak risk over time. As I just mentioned a second ago, classic rib has its exposed fasteners, standing seam, enclosed fasteners. Let me say it that way. What else we got? Excellent wind resistance, 100%. 100%. When properly clipped and seamed. Because there's clips that go in and all kinds of things. Like I said, it's not just metal being thrown on your roof. There's a lot more detail. Handles thermal movement well with the clip system. So if you've got a standing seam and they didn't clip it, you'll probably see some oil canning. And just Google that, standing seam oil canning, and you'll see some of that. That's not always from clips, but it can be from poor insulation. It can be from not multiple, but so many things. But it happens, and it can happen. And reasons for that. Low maintenance compared to exposed fastener systems. Just talked about that. Compared to classic rib, you don't have to change out the screws. I mean, you may end up getting one backed out over its lifetime, but not really, because it's got metal on top of it, right? It's covered on top of it. It goes down to it. The metal lays on your deck. I don't like putting metal over shingles. Number one, if you're going to get metal, you want to hear the rain sound. That's part of it. But number two, when you cover metal over shingles, well, think about this. Let me say it this way. During the normal summer, July, August, when it's hot, I've been on roofs and they've been 160 degrees, 170 degrees. I'll shoot a laser and see how hot it is because of the heat, right, from the sun, the radiation, thermal buildup, whatever they want to call it. Well, what do you think a steel panel is going to be? She's going to get hot. That's why, well, I'll tell you that's why we do another thing here in a second. So she's going to get hotter than what shingles are now. So shingles that are now smothered by a metal panel will start deteriorating. And if it's been there 15, 20 years and you pull that panel up because there's a leak somewhere and you've got just crumbles of shingles. And that means water played Plinko. You remember The Price is Right in the Plinko game. They stand up top of that board and drop that disc or whatever, and it hits all the pins, and you hope to hit where the money's at. But you can drop it in the middle and then go all the way from one side to the other before it lands where it should be or where you want it. That's because the metal panel got too hot. Now, it didn't get too hot. It got too hot for the shingles underneath it. So I'm not a big fan in overlaying metal over shingles, just like I'm not a big fan of putting two roofs on. Meaning, I had somebody call me a while back saying, hey, how much to do a layover? I'm like, we don't do them. I mean, you'll save just a little bit of money. I always call it, hey, I'll knock $500 off and I'm not warranting it. If I'm going to do an overlay, which really I'm not doing it anyways. I just sort of say that and joking around, but I'm deadly serious though, is that I'm not a big fan of it because anytime you cover up another shingle, especially with a whole nother layer, shingles breathe. You're not going to breathe as well on that top layer now, which is your new roof, which won't last as long. It's that simple. But let's get back to standing seam. It's a high-end appearance and increases property value. Well, yeah, I'd say it increases property value. You've got a $40, $50, $60, $100, $200,000 roof, depending on how big your roof is, if you want standing seam. Sure, definitely will. So will a new roof, in my opinion. If you're selling your house and you've got a 15, 16, 17-year-old roof that's most likely not been maintained, then, well, what do you think is going to be negotiated on that, right? It's going to be the roof. Get that out of the way, you'll actually make money on it. Yeah, you'll have to put a little money out up front, but when that house sells, you'll make money on what you invested. That's the way I see it. And, I want to get into the cons of standing seam. There are cons. There's always cons. But they're not major. Again, it goes back to other things. But if you're still with me and still maybe want standing seam or a shingle system, call RTM Roofing at 615-500-0751, 500-0751, or go to rtmroofing.com. Scroll to the bottom, fill out the contact card for, roofing, siding, soffit, fascia, gutters, chimney caps, skylights, and now insulation needs. That's simple. And we can come out and look like we're going to Sam, and I have Mr. Waters in Manchester and Dave in Shelbyville. Or Tullahoma. I keep writing down Shelbyville, but he's Tullahoma. Hey, don't get mad at me. Sorry. But yeah, well, we're going to get into some cons on this. Now I'm going to do some comparing versus shingles. Spend your money right. Protect what you own. You're listening to Renovation Nation. See you in 3. Hey, this is Chad Rowland with RTM Roofing. You already know us for our roofing, our siding, our soffit, our fascia, our gutters, our chimney caps, our skylight work. Now, home insulation. It's time to get your attic inspected. Do you have enough? How long has it been there? What's inside there? Call RTM Roofing at 615-500-0751 or go to rtmroofing.com. Listen every Saturday right here to Renovation Nation. We're back live on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. You know what time it is. It's Renovation Nation time. Coming at you live from Super Talk 99.7 WTN, but from the undisclosed location of Studio 378. Oh, wow. Yeah, that was a good break. I needed that break. Had a little camera issue I had to mess with. I tell you, I love technology. But technology doesn't always love me at the time it needs to. I can be playing with it when I'm not in the moment like now, and it works perfect. But then, right when you're a minute away from coming back live here at you, it turns into a barely got back to my seat. Well, anyways, it's another Saturday. Hope you're having a great day today. And I realize I really haven't given out RTM's number a lot today. And so if you've been listening and didn't catch it a minute ago or 20 minutes ago, whenever it was, and you need RTM roofing services, you got an issue, you want a yearly inspection, complimentary, call RTM Roofing at 615-500-0751, 500-0751. Or go to rtmroofing.com, Scroll to the bottom, fill out the contact card for all your roofing, siding, soffit, fascia, gutters, chimney caps, skylights, and now insulation, home insulation needs. We do repairs and replacements. We do more repairs than replacements. I've talked about that for years. Because I always say it's a joke, but it's not a joke. But if I can't repair your roof, how are you going to let me replace it? That's always been my sort. Those of you that's listened to me a lot, and I appreciate that very much. I'm just a crazy analogy guy, and it's simple. I'm a simple person. I'm not that brilliant, people. But 1 + 1 is 2, and that's the way I look at it. That's the way I approach everything. It's got to add up. If it doesn't add up, then it doesn't make sense. If it doesn't make sense, well, we'll figure it out maybe, or just maybe it's not meant to be figured out. I don't know. Made that up on the spot. But anyway, talking standing seamless today, standing seam metal roofing, because we've had a lot of calls this last week, about it, people wanting it. And then once I go over a lot of stuff I'm going over today, some people end up wanting the shingle version or shingle roof, the IKO Dynasty system that we do. Or they like, I'm ready to go. That's everything I wanted, and let's rock and roll, and we're happy to do that. But I want to be able to give you something you can go back and listen to again, like you can on YouTube. Search A Standard Conversation. @ A Standard Conversation is the handle. And it's Renovation Nation /RTM Roofing. So you can go back and study some of this for people that already have these questions and you hear the show. You can go back and listen a little bit more of this, or didn't hear this show, or just people find it online, I guess. I don't know. But I find out, much like myself, there's a lot of ignorant people out there. And like I was talking to Sam in Mount Pleasant, that you don't know what you don't know, right? And that's why I talk about roofing. I know roofing. I know standing seam roofing. I know metal roofing. Yeah, same thing. And I know asphalt. I know road roofing. I know commercial roofing. Now, it's been over quite a few double-digit years. I don't like saying how many years anymore. But at the same point, however, that I'm not going to ask to somebody something if I don't know about it already. And let me rewind that. That was a bad way to say that. I completely reversed that. If I don't know something about what I'm looking to get, I'm going to go to the person that does it. As I was explaining to Sam, a little easier than I am right now. So so when he was asking me about standing seam versus shingles and this and that, I've got a pretty good vantage point I'm giving you the information from. And if you reverse the roles, he was talked about something about buses, and I was like, well, if I was looking for a bus and I called you, then what you're telling me when you're going, you don't want that bus, you want this bus, or you want that minivan for what you're needing, I'm going to listen that direction. Unless, as I said in a couple segments ago, unless I got more money and sense, or that's just what I want. Fair enough. And look, my tastes aren't the same as yours. When we look at a brown dog, gray dog, I see brown, you see gray. Isn't that a wild thing? That's why I don't pick colors. We don't pick colors at RTM Roofing. I'll tell you, it looks good. I love that color, but hey, I might be seeing purple and you're seeing fuchsia or whatever it is, whatever. So the color of my background of the studio right now. So that's where I try to come from when I'm especially talking about standing seam versus shingles. Because, again, I get up on my soapbox on what I did on my roof. But that is for me and what I wanted. And the reasons I wanted it. And the reasons I knew I wanted it. I didn't want to spend the additional money for a standing seam roof. That's not a reason not to get it overall, but in my case, it was. No, I'm not doing that. I like my IKO Dynasty. So let's get into a couple cons. Well, it's higher upfront cost compared to shingles, every bit of it. If a $20,000 or let's say $15,000 shingle roof, yeah, you're going to be above $35,000. I can tell you that. Or somewhere at it, 35 to 40K, 30 to 40K. Just double it, at least. That's sometimes a hinge pin for people. Everybody wants standing seam, then they really, because I'm thinking in real time again here, and I shouldn't be doing that. I think it's a psychological thing that growing up, at least as I did in the country, everybody wanted the metal roofs, some old tin roofs, and this and that. And people would go out and just slap them up over shingles and not do complete. Now, there were people that did good work, but not do rake edge metal, drip edge metal, they'll put a neoprene boot instead of a true metal flashing boot that goes on your roof with a metal system. It's not the same gear. Only thing's the same, well, not much. Other than caulking. Everything's built for a metal system, just like everything's built for an asphalt system. And the only thing I know would interchange would be some synthetic at time and ice and water guard, except with metal roofing, we'll install high temperature ice and water guard for those high temps I was talking about earlier. And plus, ice and water guard's your friend, and you're not worried about burning a panel up as much as you are burning a shingle up. Otherwise, I'd put high temperature ice and water guard over your whole roof all the time. But I don't. We don't, because it won't allow your shingle to breathe. And shingles need to breathe. So let's back to cons. Let me not squirrel here. Hey, requires skilled labor. Yeah, you got to have people that know what they're doing. A standard roofing crew that installs shingles only, you don't want them installing metal. You really don't, because that's like me being a heart surgeon and then all of a sudden going to go operating on your liver. Not saying I can't do it. Hey, I know how to cut you open. I can get in there and mess around, but I'm specialized in the heart. Well, you got to have crews specialized in the liver, which is your standing seam roof, and we do. What else we got here? More complex detailing at penetrations and transitions. There's a big one. I always say roof isn't rocket science. It really isn't. Especially, you pop your lines, you put it up, you secure it, move on. But it's when you hit that transition, i.e. your roof hits a wall. It changes slope directions. It goes from a steep slope to a lower slope. What else? There's all kinds of, you got pipe boots coming out, different penetrations. Not different penetrations, the same ones, but different material and accessories that you put for a metal roof with a penetration versus a shingle roof with the same penetration. That's in pipe boots. That's in a few other details. Your counter flashings, well, they're similar, but they're still different by the way they interlock and go under and do all the stuff versus a shingle system. So yeah, more complex detailing, 100% a metal roof versus a shingle roof, even though there's some rocket science in that. It can be noisy during heavy rain. That's a funny one because that's what most people want the metal roofs for. And that I always talk to, they want to hear the nature sound. Okay, 55,000. I don't like nature that much. Repairs can be more difficult than a shingle system. 100%. They can be because it's the Plinko game. That's what I call it. It's the Plinko game. You go in your living room, look up, there's a brown spot. You go outside, it's right in the middle of your roof slope. And you go, okay, then we're going to move that panel. And the water goes left 20 panels later. It's labor. It's time. Where a shingle system, typically it's not that hard to find the leak, especially if it's in the middle of the field, and because we can just start moving some shingles real quick, and that doesn't take as much time as it does to remove metal panels that are 10 foot long, 20 foot long, whatever they may be. What else we got? That's really about the biggest cons. Oil canning, you can have oil canning if for multiple reasons. Well, one of the reasons is not installed properly, and then there's other reasons too. And I'm not going to get into that because I don't like oil canning. And so standing seam versus, an IKO dynasty system, I'm going to talk about that. What's the pros and cons? Other than the cost, there's the pro is the shingle system is less expensive. The con of a standing seam is it's more expensive. But again, you're getting 2 to 3 roofs versus just buying one in longevity. That's the pro. Now I've got, 5, 10, 15 more of these pros and cons that I really want to get across to you. So when you call RTM Roofing at 615-500-0751 or go to rtmroofing.com, you already have a general idea of what you're wanting and why. Or you've got more questions. Either way, we'll take that call. So come on back. It's Standing Seamless Day. Hey, this is Chad Rowland with RTM Roofing. You already know us for our roofing, our siding, our soffit, our fascia, our gutters, our chimney caps, our skylight work. Now, home insulation. It's time to get your attic inspected. Do you have enough? How long has it been there? What's inside there? Call RTM Roofing at 615-500-0751 or go to rtmroofing.com. Listen every Saturday right here to Renovation Nation. And you know we're back. Back live on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. You know what time it is. It's Renovation Nation time. Yes, it is. Yeah, if you just tune in, I remixed that tune a little bit, little electronic error. I always like to put it in the show and it got lost or something went down. I don't know. Hey, we got hit by a cyber attack this week, they say. So, not just us, I'm talking about the whole country. But anyway, is that it's shaking me up on my coming in. I'm used to a certain tempo, and I don't know why the other one was a little faster. But it was. So, anyhow, let me fix something right here. There we go. All right, we're back. We're back live on Super Talk 997. I'm Chad Rowland, host of this crazy show called Renovation Nation. That, if you missed it today, missed some of it, just tuning in, want to catch the other shows because you missed last week's or the weeks before, go to YouTube. Type in the little at symbol, a standard conversation. Then look for Renovation Nation /RTM Roofing. Or you can go to our website, rtmroofing.com. And there's videos up there. You can click on the video and then get to YouTube and you'll see our handle. And go subscribe. We're looking for more subscribers. We're up to 81. Although we've got a lot more on Facebook and Instagram and all that. But YouTube's something I've been hitting a lot more heavily in the last year, but this year especially since being a lot more consistent, as this is not as crazy a year as it was last year, recording these shows with the video and actually editing it. Golly, sometimes I feel like I'm stroking out. Oh, there's like a freaking call coming in. Zim Mayer. That go to rtmroofing.com and then you'll see some videos that are up, some older videos, and go to YouTube and watch this show because we're talking golly, what is going on today? Standing seamless to standing seam metal roofing. That's what we're talking about versus shingles. Just pros and cons of both of them. And we've been doing a lot on the standing seam. And so when you go, what's a pro over a standing seam if you get an RTM IKO Dynasty system? Well, the pros are lower upfront cost. Already mentioned that. If you've got $15K shingle system and you've got a 30 plus K standing seam, there's your difference if you're not budgeted for it. Exposed fastener system. It's the exposed fastener system, not standing seam. My notes messed up on me here. Yeah, the exposed fastener system, more prone to long-term issues because screws keep back out and you can see them, then water's getting in, you don't know it's there, it takes a while to come in, boom, damage, more repair on metal, where a shingle system, I've done thousands of roofing repairs on shingles. And here's a pro I'll tell you about an IKO Dynasty system. Last year, I don't know how many, it might not be tens of thousands, but it's definitely in the thousands of individual shingles we replaced last year of every brand. Every brand. IKO, in the last 3 years with the Dynasty, I've only had to replace 8 shingles out of those thousands a year. That's a big pro to me, especially when it comes to a shingle system and IKO Dynasty versus all the others. Now, there can be arguments here and there, and I can always still man anything. But I just go by the facts that's given to me when we've done, I would dare say, 1 million square feet or more of IKO Dynasty in the Davidson County, surrounding county areas. 8 shingles from 2 properties. One had 3, one had 5, and both were hit by super high intense. I mean, the rest of the houses around the neighborhood were not toast, but a lot more damage. We even did an IKO roofing dynasty system in Lebanon. I think it was Lebanon. I think it was 2 years ago, and it was when one of the tornadoes came through. I can't remember, but it's been the last 2 years. I know that. I don't think it was last year. We did the roof the day before. That neighborhood got hit. Now, this is no lie. I'll tell you the truth. Almost every house, I'm pretty sure, Dwayne can tell it better than me because he went out. Because we just did the roof the day before. Tornado came through right through that area. The houses in the neighborhood were beat to death. Now, I don't mean just tore down. I mean the shingles missing type stuff everywhere. Every house had shingles everywhere. Our system was still there. It sort of reminds you of the hurricane comes in and wipes out every house, but there's always one sitting there untouched. And that may have been the case here, but I like to say IKO Dynasty took it. And it did. It really did. Not a shingle was missing. He still got the roof to this day, and it's still leak-proof, as we say. Or there's not been a leak, and he's gotten inspected every year. Brilliant. That's part of the reason it's not leaked, too, because you can see things happening before it gets there. That's why you call RTM Roofing at 615-500-0751, 500-0751, or go to rtmroofing.com. Scroll to the bottom, fill out the contact card. Thank you for the people that do that because it goes right in our system and it makes it seamless. Mr. Travis Wilson did it this week. And a few other people. But for all your roofing, siding, soffit, fascia, gutters, chimney caps, skylights, now home insulation needs. Repairs and replacements, insurance or retail, 15% off for all first responders. Active military, retired, Gold Star families, 15% off. Police, firemen, paramedics, emergency room workers, hospital workers. I always joke, plastic surgeons excluded. However, that's 15% off. Everybody else, when you call RTM Roofing, you automatically get 10% off. And now I did a show a while back and I talked about it. I read something that says that's not what you do in marketing. It sounds cheap because you shouldn't have to give anything off. It should be what it is. No, that's the way we give back to the community. I'm not trying to do a cheap marketing. We'll knock 10% off. No. I'm doing that for everybody. Why don't I just start at that number? Because I want to show you the value, number one, of what your roofing system is. Number two, I want to give you something. That's right. Not give to get. I want to give you something. That's the way I like being able for my company to give back is we know who we're giving it back to and we know where the money's going, right? The money's staying in your pockets where it's going. I like that verse. And don't get me wrong, there's other things we help people out with at RTM, and we do like donating, but I like the best donating when I know it's going to where it's supposed to be. That's, again, 1 + 1 is 2 to me. Not saying anything about anybody I've ever given to or anything I've ever given to, me personally or RTM Roofing. I'm just saying we know this world, and it's a crazy world nowadays. Sam in Pleasant View will tell you about it. I'll tell you that. We had a long conversation about it. That's one of The ironic things when you call RTM Roofing and it might get to the voicemail, and that's why you go to the website and fill it out, because I'm usually talking to somebody on the other line. And that was an hour conversation this last week. Oh, it was a great conversation, though. I enjoyed talking to him. And he was talking about standing seam. And, we're going to figure out what he wants. We went out this week. I know we're working him up a bunch of different things. And, he's going to be able to make an educated decision because we're going to give him more than one choice. Here's your shingle system. Here's your standing seam. Here's you. What else do you want? I mean, there's at least two things that you can go back and forth on and compare and then see what your budget fits, what you want. I say that wanting because everybody wants $1 million, but you don't need $1 million. You might. But it's really what you need. And what does your home need? And what are you wanting to put on it that you need? And how much is the cost? Call RTM Roofing, 500-0751, or go to the website. Next week, I don't know. We'll see you here. Thanks for watching Renovation Nation. Hope you enjoyed the show. Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and share button.